Okay, that makes more sense now. All right, so we are live. It looks like this hangout is live. Great. How do I sound?
You sound wonderful, sir. How do I sound?
You sound like you. Yes.
Good.
Yeah, you sound fine. You sound fine. Okay, I'm gonna put this over here. No, that's not for you. That's for the computer. All right. Okay. The rats are coming. The werewolves are here, and the weirdo. Lovely.
I'm holding back. I'm gonna wait.
Okay. You don't have to.
I have many opinions for this episode.
I know. I can tell. Okay. Shit. What day is it? The 4th. Because I do these. I number them all. I don't by the day. I don't put no silly number. 265,310. Okay, so give me a second.
All right, you do your thing. You just call on me when you need me.
Okay, so if you haven't listened to the show,
yes.
We do a little what I've watched before we start the movie. So if there's anything you've watched in the last couple of days that you want to talk about,
let me pull up my letterbox and see. I haven't really been watching much outside of the podcast stuff lately. Again, so this has been a year completely unlike last year, where I was constantly watching stuff. Now I'm back in podcast hell, doing nothing but watching stuff for podcasts.
Yeah, sucks. So actually, I like something like that.
It doesn't. It doesn't. All right. Okay. Let's see. Recent activities. Oh man, what the fuck is up with Letterboxd? You hit recent activities and it gives you just this random assortment of movies.
Yeah, I don't. That's like because it's like everybody's. It's like it gives you your stream, so everybody you follow, yourself, which, and then your incoming, which I don't particularly care for. If you go into your profile and you just go to your diary, it'll tell you everything you watched in the last every month. That's what I usually do. That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, here's what I got. I got it.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna put it for today, or should I put it for? Yeah, I'll put it for today. I probably won't put out Thursday.
All right.
So, okay. Motion Picture Massacre 4 is February 4th, 2019. Song, dumb bullshit. This all get edited out, maybe.
How did you get started? Because I've been listening to your podcast for a while now.
Yeah.
And you've only just recently started putting that song in front of everything. What was the impetus behind putting the song at the front end now?
Well, Uncle Floyd is a kind of a mainstay of the state. Like he's something, he's kind of like, he was a TV show, kind of like he was on like public access television, and he's kind of been on he's been in and around Jersey for like decades.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I was watching some of his stuff, and that song just popped up when I was just watching stuff on YouTube, and I was like, oh, that's really kind of weirdly fitting since I'm a Jersey kid. And it's like, so I just been playing it because I've been kind of I used to play stuff like when I first started the show. I had a Mac, so you had GarageBand, so you had all the stupid fucking sound effects that GarageBand came with.
Yeah, sure.
And I would just jam those in there. And then when the Mac died, I started using PCs, which PCs suck. I hate them. So it's like, so I had to figure out what to put there. So like usually it was like either a song or some stupid. But with Deep in the Heart of Jersey, I was just like, oh, that's perfect. It kind of works very right for the whole overall kind of concept of the show. And the character that I kind of portray online, for the most part, jerky asshole kind of person from Jersey. Except for in this show, I don't know. I'm kind of just normal me. You hear me anywhere else? I'm doing the Wayne thing where I'm just really a jerk.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
That guy a time or two,
because I know people who've listened to the show and go, I was expecting like the kind of stupid character, and it's like, no. I mean, I used to do that character when I first started, but I was just kind of bored of it, and now I just kind of use it just to kind of like take my anger out on podcasts.
Well, you need to do that every once in a while. Funny thing is, you've been Wayne and you've been Vaughn on Astro Radio Z. You've been both of them.
Yeah, I know. I've heard. Yeah.
No, I love that song to start the show with because it's unique. I don't hear many other movie podcasts that decide to go outside of themselves and be a little more rooted in like the region that they're from or anything like that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
mine sounds like a Wisconsin podcast because I have this stupid fucking accent. There's no way around it.
It sounds fine. You sound all right. There's no big deal.
Oh,
I mean,
tell the people in fucking California when I was living out there about that. They were absolutely convinced I had a cheese factory in the basement. It's all the stupid bullshit jokes you could possibly think of.
Christ. Okay.
So now that I derailed you, I'm sorry.
So hi everybody. I'm gonna keep all this in. Hi everybody. Vaughn here. How are you doing? If you heard the docile Minnesota tones there, that is Derek. He is the kind of benefactor of Astro Radio Z, the podcast host of All the Gimmicks, and a kind of purveyor of smut over at the podcast of Orgy Castle. I asked Derek, I actually kind of dragged him kicking and screaming onto this show to talk about Andy Milligan again. We did, what was the last one I did? Nightbirds, which I really loved. And I have a hit and miss, and I kind of love-hate relationship with Andy Milligan. Ever since Stephen Thompson at Just Another Fucking Movie Podcast dragged me on his show to do all the movies on one show and then subsequently lost the podcast, that dickhead. So ever since then, I've been like, I need to do this. I need to push it on someone else. And Derek's a hater of, well, actually, no. Your opinions on Milligan have changed in the last 6 months because you actually started looking at the things with the right eye, the mind's eye, not your physical eyes, which...
It's funny how over 20 years I've been watching Milligan movies, but it isn't until now that I've finally been, at least in your perspective, watching them correctly.
Right. So tonight we're going to tackle, what's the year for that fucking movie? The one, I can never get the title right. The Rats Are Coming, The Werewolves Are Here from 1972. And The Weirdo, The Beginning, or just Weirdo, The Beginning from 1989.
The beginning of what? Nobody fucking knows.
He never got the money to make the sequel. Well, subsequently, he died of AIDS 2 years later. So, no. Sad.
What is sad, that he never made the movie or that he died? Which one?
He died. I mean, I like, it's like any of these great, like, kind of auteur goofball directors like Ed Wood or him or Ted V. Michaels. Like all these guys, like Ted V. Michaels lived a long time, but he stopped making movies after a certain time and just kind of lived on his notoriety, you know?
Well, Ted V. Michaels actually made movies all the way up into the end. My bud, who used to be the first host of Astro Radio Z, right, Corey Udler, wrote movies with him until he died. The last movie Ted V. Michaels put out, Paranormal Extremes, Text Messages from the Dead, Corey wrote that movie, and it came out like a year or two before Ted died.
But the thing is, I always felt with Michaels is that I never really watched anything past like the 70s with him.
Sure.
Because
there's no reason to, really.
Yeah, it's just like, because he went from like a filmmaker to like every other independent filmmaker out there, to be honest. I mean, I love him to death. You know, the fact that the first time I ever saw him was on a Incredibly Strange Film Show episode. Mm-hmm. And I was so blown away by this guy, and I was like, wow. And I started just devouring everything he did. And then I went deeper into the later years, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to kind of pretend this guy never stopped making movies at a certain point. And it's just like, ugh, because some of that stuff is just like, no offense to your friend, but some of the stuff is like, you know, just trash.
Well, to be fair, a lot of it, I mean, there was a certain point where obviously the bottom fell out of independent film at the level that Ted was making those movies.
Right, yeah.
He went flat broke. He had all this gear. He sold it off and then got digital gear and tried doing the same thing and just wasn't accustomed to it. Now, in Corey's defense, Ted took Corey's scripts and completely rewrote most of them. And shot whatever the hell he wanted to shoot. So
yeah, well, that was kind of Michael's thing. But like a lot of people I know really like him, really admire him, which I'm not against admiring him.
Yeah.
But like I said, we're going to tackle two of Andy Milligan's film. Andy Milligan is a kind of a maverick, deranged grindhouse film director from the early 60s up to the 90s. About a third of the films he's made are gone and are lost, but like a film like Nightbirds, which miraculously reappeared a couple of years ago thanks to people like Nicholas Winding Refn, you kind of get that hope in that maybe somebody will find one of those weird roughies he did in the 60s, in a back alley or some kind of fucked up, torn up theater in the city. But you can only dream, right?
It's like a dream of mine. Those movies, the titles of them sound so
they're awesome.
fucking amazing.
Yeah. So what we normally do here on the show is we talk about what we watched. I already asked Derek to see if he had anything. I know he's been watching a lot of stuff for podcasts, which is, rare because you now do 2. I say you do 2 podcasts about movies, but like the Gimmicks podcast, really, you guys barely even talk about movies on that show.
No, that show is basically an excuse for my bud Seth and I to just bullshit. That's all it is.
It's just you guys doing the talking the talk. You know what I mean? Like it's just what's the word I'm thinking of? You're just doing the gimmick the whole damn time, which is a funny thing. It's just like if you ever so let me put a good idea of like anybody who hasn't listened to the show, and I'm gonna plug right now for you, is that remember back in the day when we used to watch wrestling, when you were a kid, and they would do those little like TV segments where they would talk shit about the other wrestlers. This is a show that is between 45 minutes to an hour and a half of all of that the whole time. Just 2 guys talking the shit. And it's beautiful. It's really well put together. If you're not into that, I don't know what to tell you. But if you like that kind of stuff, occasionally talk about movies, like you guys did Suspiria last week, finally.
Yeah. So did it live up to your expectations?
I still haven't watched it yet, actually. I haven't gotten to
it yet. I don't care if you've watched the movie. I'm on my fucking podcast.
Sorry. Jesus.
If we're gonna do a shoot, if I'm gonna cut a promo on you on your own fucking podcast, what'd you think of my review of fucking Suspiria?
No, I thought it was I thought it was very well. Because I can definitely tell especially Seth kind of rewatching it for the second time, and not particularly, he was in love with the first time he saw it, and I guess actually sitting down there and actually paying attention to the film the second time, he was he got his dick blown back in the first one, so he was like, oh, I actually could sit here and try to engulf this thing, and then realized, oh my god, this isn't as good as I thought it was.
Right.
It was my second best film last year, and then this year it's like number 10.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Well, you're a big reality. Fan. Are you a big fan of the Argento film?
Oh, fuck yeah. I am one of the biggest Argento apologists I know. I've seen everything. I love most of it. Even the shitty stuff, I still can enjoy.
Like The Card Player? You like that film?
It's okay. That's one of the lesser ones. I mean, of course, everything post like Stendhal syndrome is kind of up and down. I mean, you have Sleepless.
I like that one.
That one's a good one. Trauma is a good one.
Yeah. Do you remember Hitchcock? You ever see that one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like that one's okay. It's okay.
I like that one. But like The Card Player was always the one where it was like, back in the day. Nowadays, it's just like, it's Giallo, it's Dracula. We're just like, Giallo, I hate it. I remember.
Let's just wrap our heads around this fucking concept.
Okay, what?
Adrian Brody with a nose prosthetic.
With a bigger
Why
nose.
do you need to put a nose prosthetic on fucking Adrian Brody? Why?
I don't get it. I don't get it. Yeah, and he's in the shadows most of the time doing this bad like Italian accent thing, and it's just like, oh my god,
it's fucking ridiculous.
And I know you're a big fan of Dracula. I still haven't seen that movie.
Oh, it's terrible. It's a fucking travesty.
Because a reason why the card player is, I think, coming out through Code Red or Scorpion, one of those companies, one of the Olsen brother companies.
Interesting.
And they were showing, and I saw a promo on one of the discs. I was like, oh god, for fuck's sakes, no.
Yeah, I'm surprised somebody would even want to take the time to pull that one out. I mean, I've been waiting for a really good version of the Stendhal Syndrome, which I think is one of his last really great movies that he put out.
Yeah, I know. Definitely. Like, that's definitely the high watermark of like the mid 90s Argento. Yeah.
Right. Like the post phenomena.
Yeah.
Argento.
Uh-huh.
So what have you watched lately?
So I've been watching a lot of documentaries and 30s films for some strange reason.
What got you into that?
The thing is, I'm sitting in this movie room, and my son comes in here occasionally, and he bounces around and kind of causes hell, and shit just falls all over the place. So I'm constantly coming in here and moving stuff. So, and like for some odd reason, I'm kind of in the mood to kind of like shrink my collection. Because I just don't have any shelving anymore. I'm actually looking at a pile of like DVDs and Blu-rays, like 4 piles of DVDs and Blu-rays sitting on my floor in this room that I have no shelves for. And I'm like, shit, I really need to and a friend of mine, he's really into like collecting too, but he goes into these jags where he collects and collects and collects. And then he freaks out and goes, I have to make room. And he sells like a shitload of stuff. And then he goes back and then he gets like in this weird fervor and he starts collecting again.
Yeah.
Right. So he's into that mode right now. He's kind of looking at his stuff and he needs to make room and he's selling off things. He's one of these guys who's like, okay, I can deal with losing this, but I can't lose this. But then he'll sell the thing he can't lose and then buy it back like months later. You know what I mean? It's fucking crazy.
It's not an addiction.
No. Like the one big thing he was obsessed with, he's obsessed with like the Ghostbusters. So he has all this Ghostbusters gear all over the place, and he won't sell any of that, which I'm amazed by. He hasn't touched any of it. But he has like, you remember those Battle Beasts? They were like little toys. They had like a hologram in the chest. They're like little monsters.
Okay, sure.
And they had holograms in the chest that kind of showed their thing, but they were like little kids would play with them. But like he's like 40, so now they just sit on the shelf. So he will go and sell the whole and it's like 40 something characters, right? 40 something little toys. He'll sell it, and then like 5 or 6 months later, he'll get a craving and start buying them up again on eBay, like in little chunks. And then he'll have the whole collection again for like 2 or 3 years, and then he'll say, "Why the fuck do I have this?" And he'll sell it again, sell the whole collection for a reasonable price because they actually are something that kind of stays in value because people are constantly buying them and selling them. And then in like 6 months from now, he'll sell them off again. And it's just like, what the fuck?
That is the world of
it's the same.
We're like hoarders.
Well, it's the same thing like with me. Like I've talked about in the show where it's like, I don't want to give Bill Olsen any money. You know what I mean? I love Code Red, but I don't want to give him money.
Yeah.
So I'll deliberately go into like the Facebook page groups
and get them used.
And people will sell like, a chunk of the movies for like, 10 or 12 of them for a decent price. And I'll just buy the lot.
Uh-oh.
What the hell happened?
All right, here we go. I lost you. All of a sudden, it froze on me.
Fuck, where the...
It's still recording, so you're good. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yeah.
Okay, so where did you leave off? All of a sudden you froze up. You were talking about these movies, the stacks of movies in Code Red. You're buying a lot of Code Red.
Oh, okay. So I buy this. I buy that film because I don't want to give him. I don't know why. I want to support the company, but I don't want to give him money individually. I don't understand it. Because I think I'd rather have Bill miserable than actually happy. It's the truth. Like, if you ever follow him on any kind of any kind of social media, Facebook, Twitter, anything like that, he's always miserable. He's not that miserable anymore where he's fighting with all the companies. I think he's still fighting with vinegar syndrome right now. Yeah. Because he just needs to find a reason to fight with people. But I don't want to give him money because always the discs are always too expensive. It's like $25, $30. I'm like, yep. Fuck, I don't want to buy that.
I can't handle that. That's why I don't collect a lot of the boutique stuff. It's just too overpriced.
Well, that's why I wait for people on Facebook who are desperate, and they'll have 6 or 7 films that are you probably can sell individually for a decent price, but they'll be like, all right, $60, you get all of it. Okay, buy it. And then I'll sell them back for, probably the main price that they're selling them for. If I got them for 60 and it was 7 or 8 discs, I got them under $10 a disc, I'll send them for 20 because I know I can get $20 for them. And I'm undercutting Bill because he's selling them for 30, and it's but I'm just doing it because I'm like, all right, I'll watch this. And then it's like, all right, I got to get rid of these. I don't want them. I just feel dirty after a while. I'm like, ugh, get it. Go.
I'm so ashamed of myself.
So I've been sitting in this room now the last 2 weeks, kind of rearranging stuff, putting stuff on the shelves, taking stuff off the shelves. And I've come to realize I have 4 piles. And so I'm putting stuff in the player to kind of watch because I'm like, oh, I haven't watched this. Put it in the player. Kind of also getting rid of like a lot of the to watch pile too because I'm pulling things off and I'm like, when the hell did I buy this? Like, where the hell did this come from? And I'll watch it and I'm like, oh, this is garbage, and put it on a pile. So I'm watching like the Marx Brothers films, which I'm not going to get rid of. I'm a big fan. I watched Monkey Business one night cleaning this room, which is what is it? It's their third film, but it's like their first film in a 3-picture deal. And it's like, how can I explain this film? The 4 brothers are like stowaways on a ship, and they get found out, but they're running around the ship causing chaos. The ship docks, and then they end up in like a big like hotel, like estates, and they end up causing chaos there. And it's a fun little film. It's the first film that they did where they didn't actually have it done for like vaudeville or for the stage. It was like a film where they brought in a whole bunch of writers and wrote the film and kind of just ran with it. It's an interesting little film. And like, I don't know. Like, so I was like, all right, let me put something on I want to watch, because I've been watching a lot of weird, stupid crap, either from my DVR or from like I've been watching like 60s. Like, what else did I watch? I watched the Aztec Mummy versus Roast the Robot.
Oh, jeez.
Have you ever seen that movie?
Oh, yeah, I have.
So I watched that because it was on my DVR from TCM like months ago. But it was the Mystery Science Theater is the actual film in Spanish with subtitles, which the monsters are cool in that film. The robot's really cool in that film when he finally pops up, but it's slow as fucking shit.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
It's like, and like to the point where I'm like, all right, I can do something else. Like, oh wait, the dishes need to be cleaned. I can wash the dishes while I'm watching this. Like,
I have a lot of movies that are like that, man. Now, what is your opinion on like Mystery Science Theater? I'm the kind of cat that I want to see the movie without them yucking over top of it.
When I was a kid, because Mystery Science Theater was something that I only saw when I visited my grandfather. Like, my grandfather's house had a house upstate because they're Irish. The Irish all bought houses upstate, like cheap homes up in upstate New York, and kind of like lived this weird kind of like sheltered life where like all the families were all Irish. It was really interesting. So every summer around July 4th, we would go out for 2 weeks with my grandparents, and they had cable up there, and we didn't have cable down where I lived. So I got to see Mystery Science Theater for the first time there. And every time we'd go up, we got to watch Mystery Science Theater. Because either when it was on, I think it was on Sci-Fi the first time, and then when it came to Comedy Central, but they would play like all weekend, like on Saturdays, like pretty much like 4 or 5 hour chunks of just the show. And I was like, oh, this is great. So I kind of got into some films because of that. And like now I see these films on TCM, like going through the underground, or just like, oh, I pick things up and I'm like, why does this look familiar? And then I watch it and I'm like, holy shit, it's from that fucking show.
Yeah.
So there's certain films there, yeah. But then like when I rewatch films I've already seen and they've done riffs on them, I can kind of get with it. Like the new stuff they've been doing, I'm kind of 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that first season, there's a couple of films in there that I thought were really good that I didn't understand. Like the riffs weren't like the whole joking on it was kind of stupid. It didn't really work.
Yeah.
But like the old stuff, I kind of I can't get into riff tracks.
I can't get into that at all, mostly because it's just normie, blockbuster type stuff.
It's very lightweight, kind of like, oh, look, we'll just pick like the most like popular dog shit of the day and riff on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just lowest common denominator, lowest hanging fruit type shit.
Yeah. But like they did like a one where it was like a 10-year anniversary of the whole MST3K, where they actually brought everybody from the original cast up and they all did their individual pieces. And when it was like TV's Frank and Trace Ballou doing something, that I found very funny because those two guys are very funny. And it's like when you get the riff track guys up there, it's like, oh, this is kind of like boilerplate. It's like the same shit you guys do all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know. So like I'm kind of hit and miss with that.
The new season wasn't too bad.
But the problem with the new season is that they were a lot of like line drives, you know what I mean? They were like really easy films to riff on.
Like Atlantic Rim.
Yeah. That was like, and that was actually like a truncated version of that film, because I think that film's almost 2 hours.
I've seen the original film. We did it for like a bonus episode on Astro Radio Z, and that film was miserable. And I remember it was at Thanksgiving when that came out, and I was sitting with my sister and brother-in-law, and I'm like, man, this is a really awful movie. And halfway through it, I'm like, holy crap, this movie's flying by. They must have edited this down big time.
Yeah, because I'm like, why does this feel like really truncated and weird? And then I went online to look it up, and I was like, oh, they're missing like 40 minutes. Like, okay, that makes sense. No wonder it looks so weird.
It's the only way to watch that movie.
Yeah, they had to. They probably had a deal with them where it's like, oh, we'll play the film, but we got to have it in like under 2 hours with all our goofing off.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, fine. We take it. Because all the rest of those films feel like, the actual film, just with them riffing over top of it.
Right.
That's the only one that feels like they just took one portion of the film and used that for the riff. You know what I mean?
Well, you're not missing anything. Anything that cut out is definitely not missing, and it felt like I'm watching the movie, essentially.
No, you're right. And then the two docs I watched the Doom documentary, the documentary on the Fantastic Four, that Roger Corman film. Which
how was that?
It's kind of boring because there are like 3 or 4 like articles written about it, about the history of the film, which I actually like, because what they do is they bring who they can. So it's like Corman, like the director, all the actors, the writer, like a couple of people who worked on the set. Lloyd Kaufman's in there, which I was just like, fucking come on, really? And he's only in there for the first 5 minutes because I guess the guy who originally owned the rights to Fantastic Four asked Troma and asked Corman. And Troma and Lloyd was like, well, I'm friends with Stan and I don't really want to upset him, because this was in the 90s when like Troma and when Lloyd and Stanley were like buddies, because he would pop up in their movies every once in a while,
Yeah.
And so Troma kind of passed. I know we don't see Lloyd anymore, which I was like, oh, good, thank God. And then Corman comes in, and Corman says, yeah, I'll split the difference with whoever I forget the other guy who actually owns the rights to it. And they made the movie, but there's like in between like each segment, they cut the black, and then they play like they show like a quote from an article, and they actually place where the article is, who wrote the article every time they do this. So I'm like, okay, let me see if I can find this article online. And the guy who wrote it actually put it on a PDF so you can download it and read it yourself. And that article is much more entertaining than watching this movie, because because the problem is, it just seems like everybody else is bitter that the film never got released. Like the actors, the director, like everybody else is really bitter about it.
Of course.
And Corman is just like sitting back like, yeah, well, what can you do?
Yeah. And we did it for a reason. There's a reason he made it. The rest of them thought they were actually making a movie that would get out there.
Have you ever seen that Fantastic Four movie?
Oh, yeah, I own it. I've had a bootleg of it since late 90s.
Yes. So, and I remember seeing that the first time, being blown away by it, but not really particularly going, why didn't this ever come out? Just kind of be happy that I got to see it.
Yeah.
But like never been like, well, like it's another one of those 90s superhero movies. It's crap. It's like, so who cares if it's out on the shelf forever? Like,
well, it's one of those things where, because I've been involved with film in the past, it's like everybody that goes into any of these projects, they go into it wanting to make something, even if that you go into it with the perspective of, this isn't going to probably be much of anything. This might be a total piece of shit. You still want to kind of see the fruits of your labors, you know?
Yeah, I understand. I get you there. But like, I don't know, it's kind of a middle of the road film. And none of the actors, none of the writers, and then none of the people really did anything like important. It's kind of funky that the guy who played Mr. Fantastic, the guy who played Victor Von Doom, were actually like the sons of like great actors. Like it was like, that's the only thing I found really interesting about it. It was like, wow, really? Like that's just odd as hell. Like one's Robert Culp's son was one of them, which I'm just like, whoa, okay, that's weird. But it was just like a really kind of like, it could have been a 60-minute documentary. It should have been a 90-minute documentary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They could have really shrunk it down. And the other one I watched was The Perfect Bid. These are both on Amazon Prime if you want to watch them. The Perfect Bid is about a guy who was obsessed with The Price is Right. And he actually because he was a math teacher, he actually wrote programs and actually figured out every price, because they would reuse the same shit all the time. Right? Have you ever seen that show?
Oh yeah.
They always use the same products all the time, so the prices never change. Right? So he started actually watching it constantly and actually paying attention or writing it all down, doing sheets, like graphs and everything. and then he would start going to the shows. And he went to like, I think 37 tapings over the course of like 20 years or something like that.
Holy shit.
Right. And he actually got on once, but he didn't get that far. But he would actually help people who would get on the contestants row, to the point where one guy who got on it, he was actually like sitting with them, and he got on, he was in the front row. And this is when Drew Carey was in it. This is actually one of the reasons why they kind of changed their practices, was that the guy actually got the perfect bid on the Showcase Showdown, like to the penny.
Oh shit.
And the guy was telling him like from the audience what the price was, and they got it to the penny. And they were kind of like, I think it was like they were worried that maybe somebody wasn't inside, was actually working with these people, but it was really the guy who's been there all the time. But like when it went from Barker retiring and then the whole new people, because what they do, when a new company comes in, they bring all their own people in. So the whole place got wiped. So no one remembered this guy. So he'd start going to the Drew Carey tapings and helping the people. And like the shows are much different than what Barker used to like actually acknowledge this guy in the audience at times. And it's a pretty interesting documentary. It's just, it's this one guy's like setting the record straight, because the guy who won the Showcase kind of went on local radio shows and stuff like that. It was actually like, oh yeah, I knew everything, blah blah blah. I was taking full credit for it.
Oh, what an
when ass. When it was really this dude who was actually helping him out. It's an interesting little documentary. I wanted to get to that Dick Miller documentary, which is also on Amazon right now, because of him passing away. So I wanted to see that, but I didn't get a chance to do that. Maybe like tomorrow, I'll probably watch that.
There's so much, man. I don't have Prime anymore. I got rid of it this month. I got rid of Prime and Netflix just to pare down, because my big thing with these services is that I'm a hoarder of lists, like of movies. Like you have a stack of fucking movies sitting in front of you that you want to watch on these streaming digital services. I go through the whole catalog. I'll either be sitting at my computer, or I'll be sitting, because you're always sitting there with the clicker, just looking through the catalog, and I create lists, and they're basically like checklists. Like I have to watch these movies, and you never can watch all these movies.
Yeah, I know. But the thing is, I was talking to somebody else about this. Like if I had to get rid of, like, because I pay for Shudder, I pay for Amazon, I pay for Netflix, and Shudder was just like a thing where it's like, I just went into the 14-day trial and forgot to cancel it. And like now that I actually have like a Roku downstairs in the living room TV, I was like, oh, now I can actually watch these things. And it's like, because one thing I don't know about you, I can't watch movies on my phone. I can watch TV shows, I can watch game shows, I can watch that kind of garbage, but I can't watch a movie on my phone.
No, I'm the same way.
So for the longest time we didn't have anything downstairs, and so I'd have to come up here and watch movies, watch stuff on the streaming stuff. And it's like, oh, now I bought a Roku around Christmas, and I was like, oh, perfect, now I can watch everything. And like I like Shudder, I think I think it's gotten a lot better since like last year or like 2 years ago, when it was like, oh, we have like 5 things on there,
right? And they're all the big name movies.
Yeah, and now it's actually a nice unique list of stuff. Even I think that company that stream service is owned by AMC. I'm not sure if
that wouldn't surprise me.
Well, just like, was it like Ultraviolet went out of business a couple weeks ago, right? And everybody was saying, oh, at least you still have Vudu, but like that's owned by Walmart. So if Walmart feels like it's not making any money with that service, they can just cut it out.
I'm surprised any of those services sustain, to be honest.
Yeah, what, those like stream the code type of things? Yeah.
Well, half the time I get those codes from the Blu-rays I buy, and the codes don't even fucking work.
Are you buying them new or?
Oh yeah.
Oh, because most of the time I know a lot of people buy Blu-rays just for the codes, because they'll spend the $20 for the Blu-ray, download the code, keep it on their system, and resell the Blu-ray with the code, with everything still in it.
Nah, I want to watch that Blu-ray.
Yeah,
I don't want some compressed version of the fucking movie. I don't get Blu-ray.
I don't get it. Why people would, why are you going to spend $20 when you can get it for $15 on some kind of streaming service? And hopefully you can figure out a way to pull all that data off onto a hard drive somewhere, but.
Because you're a fucking idiot. That's why you do that, because you don't understand that the Blu-ray is going to be a consistent data stream, and it's actually better than whatever digital file you're going to get off the fucking internet.
Well, I mean, like yourself, like me, if there's stuff I can't get, and like I've completely worn off buying VHS anymore. Like I used to be into it, I don't do it anymore. Like if I can find it on a torrent or I can find it through a friend who's willing to send me a link to something like a mega link or something like that,
Yeah.
I'll watch it online. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
not gonna sit there and pull out a fucking VHS player, try to figure out how to hook it up to a goddamn HD TV, you know, and then deal with the tape being destroyed midway through of it. You know, like I don't get those like the 20-something kids who are buying tapes like crazy and collecting VHS and are obsessed with it. And it's like, yeah, it's junky, ugly bullshit.
Well, it's nostalgia. Well, the kids that
No.
were getting it for a while, I think it was just this kind of, it was something that was unique to them. And I know you and I are around the same age,
Yeah.
and I hated VHS. It was the most garbage format. Yeah, the boxes looked cool, and I think that's like almost 80% of why these kids are buying all these fucking VHS, or were, because the bottom of that's kind of fallen out.
Yeah, I'm very happy about that because like I just you don't need another fucking documentary about VHS collectors. You know what I mean?
Please don't.
It's like fucking Jesus.
Please don't.
So is there anything you watched or
besides the stuff that I've been watching for the smut podcast I do now, the podcast at Orgy Castle, which is mostly just, you know, fucking real grimy, dirty ass shit.
I just actually listened to the Misty Beethoven, Deep Throat, and Beyond the Green Door episode today.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was like I've seen Beyond was it Misty Beethoven? I haven't seen Deep Throat in like years.
Oh.
But I was definitely agreeing with you on those. On the whole opinion on that, because the whole story with Linda Lovelace is tragic as fuck.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, with Misty Beethoven, I'm kind of on the fence about your opinions, because I feel like that film is more. I feel that it does start off as a man kind of molding a woman into what he wants or what he wants her to be, but I feel it changes faster than you guys are like, oh, it's like the last 2 minutes when she finally gets the upper hand on him. But I always feel like that it's a constant struggle between the two of them constantly in that film.
Yeah, there is. I mean, the movie does start with her, and she's a sassy girl, you know, and he's kind of going in there to break her. I think the reason we had the reaction we did is because we watched Deep Throat before it.
Yeah, Deep Throat's tough, man. I don't like back when I was a kid, when like, you know, when you were getting into that kind of stuff, like we would like I had friends who we would go over a friend's house and watch movies, you know. And he would pull out the weirdest shit. So, you know, so there's like 10 kids, like, you know, boys, girls, you know, all mixed. No one's really dating anybody. And you're watching Deep Throat for the first time. And it's like, I don't know if I'm supposed to laugh at this shit. Like, it's just really hard.
It's real grimy. I mean, it just looks like shit.
Like, have you ever seen that documentary they did for it, Inside Deep Throat? Which I did. I felt like at the time was good, but now that I think about it, I felt like it didn't go deeper into Linda Lovelace's kind of like idea. Like the fact that she kept jumping ship every other time.
Yeah.
You know, because she was, you know, she wasn't in her right mind when she was doing the movies. And then she became like an activist, like a pro-feminist activist against pornography.
Yep.
And then later in her life, she was going back and actually doing like Penthouse and Playboy, and like Penthouse and Hustler and stuff like that, like showing herself off again.
Yeah.
And then would jump back and be like, no, I'm not into this. Like when she needed the money, she'd go into porn.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And it's just like that's like the tragic story of that. And like, yeah, it's just, I don't know, like just kind of thinking about it. I was like, when you guys were talking, I was like, huh. I was like, oh yeah, it's just rude and stupid. Like Damiano as a director, I think is better than that. I think the other stuff he's done is better than that. But like as a starting point, it's like, you know, it's the most, you know, well-known porno ever made.
Of course. Well, you can't go into it knowing what we know now and have, you know, an outsider opinion of that movie. I mean, you're jaded no matter what you do now looking at Deep Throat. Yeah, especially when you watch it on anything where you can actually see the detail of what's going on. Yeah. I mean, her face is just goo coming out of her fucking nose the entire. She looks like she's high as shit the entire movie.
Does. Yeah, high or drunk or something like that. She had a combination of the both.
Yeah,
it's just like
terrible. Yeah. But besides that bullshit, I've gone back because I have this Plex server where, like you, I have this huge DVD collection that for a couple of years I sat and I stripped and I put onto a hard drive and made this online server now with all these movies on Plex. And so I've been trying to go through and watch all these movies I've had for years. So I introduced my kids to Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. And they looked at me and said, Dad, that movie sucked.
Did you watch it with them, or did you?
Oh
watch
yeah, I
it?
watched it with them.
Did you feel the same way? Because I've watched that because it's been on cable a lot the last like couple of, like in the summertime for some odd reason it was on cable a lot. So me and my wife sat and watched it, and I kind of walked out of the room midway through. I was like, "This is stupid! Like, what the fuck is this?"
It's not. I remember back in the day when it came out, and
Yeah.
maybe it was 91 when it came out.
Right.
So I mean, that was the beginning of high school, somewhat for me. Maybe like a year. It might be my sophomore year when it came out. So I
Yeah.
remember it was on cable all the fucking time,
Mhm.
and maybe it's just the age I was that it didn't seem like it was an adult movie, and it definitely is.
Yeah.
It's just like there's no way this is not a kids movie whatsoever.
No.
It's a boring ass version of Big. It's terrible.
Yeah,
It's
no,
fucking terrible. And I felt bad for it was on HBO Go, but we couldn't get it to work for some unknown reason. So I had it on the Plex. I knew I had it on the Plex, and my daughters did not enjoy it, and neither did I. So we watched that. I finally got around to watching Nick Palumbo's first movie, Nutbag. He's the guy who made fucking Murder Set Pieces.
Right. Yeah.
Horrible piece of shit. So I've been putting off watching Nutbag for so many fucking years, and I know Lewis put out a new version through Massacre, and so I'm watching this thing, and that was a horrible piece of shit.
Yeah, his movies. I admire him for the work for doing the work, but yeah, I can't. I watched Murder Set Pieces, and like I was with a friend of mine whose girlfriend was really into that film, and I was like, "What the
Interesting,
fuck?" Yeah,
interesting.
and like, well, he was a little fucking nuts too, so I kind of understood why he would date her, because he was just a fucking whack job, and it's just like, really, and she was just like all into it. She was really going off, and like, all right, what are we doing? Like, just let's go watch it, and like she pulled it out, we watched, it, and I was just like, fuck.
Yeah, you want to watch the misogynistic piece of shit where there's no on-screen violence?
No,
Really?
Yeah, I didn't understand why she was so obsessed with it. Like I was just like, I don't get this.
It's horrible. So Nutbag was totally fucking awful.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else did I watch? I'll just list off a couple more things real quick. I watched RBG, that documentary about Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah.
That was on Hulu. That was actually really good, even though it started becoming a ooh rah rah kind of piece toward the end of it, which was a little bit of a turnoff. But it was interesting, kind of finding out about her, early in life and where she came from and all that stuff. So I dug that one. But the last one I'll talk about, because I watch, like you, I'm sure I watch movies constantly.
Yep.
A bud of mine who's a drummer in a band gave me this 15-minute documentary by Mark Borchardt. And if you don't know who he is, he's the guy from American Movie.
Yeah.
Who made Coven or whatever you want to say, however you want to pronounce it, if you want to go by him. He made this 15-minute documentary called The Dundee Project, which is about Dundee is a little town outside of Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, where once a year there's this kind of this hill, or there's no mountains in Wisconsin. Okay. This is glacier country. There's no, it's a pretty flat land.
Right.
But there's this one hill where everyone in the area thinks there are aliens that are constantly coming there to convene over top of this hill. So once a year they have like this little mini convention, and they get together, mostly an excuse for these fuckers to get drunk, which is a Wisconsin pastime, one of the biggest alcoholic states in the entire fucking United States. And Mark goes there and just films the locals talking just mad trash about these aliens and stuff. And they're all older gentlemen, most of them about 4 sheets to the wind. And over top of this, Mark is just waxing eloquent. I mean, the VO dialogue in script that he is saying over this thing is so ridiculously academic and poetic. It is so hilarious. Wow. If you get a chance, you should check it out. There's not much to it. There's really not a lot of content. It's mostly like the people he finds there are unique in the way that the people in American Movie were unique.
Yeah.
They're very of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So for 15 minutes, I laughed my ass off and had a good time. So the Dundee Project, he's surprisingly selling this 15-minute gimmick for fucking $20 on DVD.
What?
Yeah.
It's like a National Geographic special.
Oh, Christ,
about
Vaughn. If you listen to
weirdos
this
and,
thing, you'd laugh your ass off. It's so ridiculously overwrought.
yeah, I don't. And he's selling for $20.
Yeah.
Really?
Totally. I saw that dude in
I'm like-
October. He hosted
Uh-huh.
Claudio Simonetti's Goblin playing
Oh.
over Suspiria downtown
Cool.
Milwaukee.
Okay.
And it was hilarious listening to him conduct a fucking Q&A with Claudio Simonetti.
Well, hopefully this is before the concert.
Oh, it was after the concert.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, it was after the concert. Claudio came out for a Q&A, and Mark had him out there, and Mark's talking to him about his love of Dawn of the Dead and all this other bullshit.
The fuck?
It was
Really?
great.
A Q&A after like a 90-minute concert, 2-hour concert. Okay, that's fucking weird.
Which I gotta say was kind of weak.
What, the concert?
Yeah.
Well, isn't it? This is Claudio Simonetti like by himself. It isn't like the reformed Goblin, which was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Right. No. This is his version of Goblin, which
Yeah.
A couple of the musicians, I think the drummer is the one he always has with him now.
He's always been with him. Yeah, but was it 4 years now when the surrounding members of the original Goblin all got together and did that big tour.
Yeah.
And now Simonetti, and then they said, okay, we did our thing, shook hands, and then they went back to doing their own fucking thing. So there's that one version of Goblin that's not Simonetti, and there's the version of Goblin with Simonetti. And I've heard like mixed things about both. So
they're really good. I actually, that year when they did those tours, I saw them twice. I saw each version of them, and both those concerts were fucking phenomenal.
Yeah. But seeing it with Suspiria in the background, them doing the whole soundtrack was not that like.
It was one of those things where I think the sound people, because it was at a movie theater, and it wasn't like a concert venue,
right?
And I don't think the sound men got it really right. So when they were playing, you couldn't really hear the movie, and it just, I think they weren't even. I don't even think they were showing the Blu-ray version of the movie. I think it was just some DVD version or whatever. Okay. It was very underwhelming because in the movie itself, when you listen to it.
Yeah.
I was shocked. There's maybe only 3 pieces of music that are played over and over and over again the entire fucking movie.
Yeah.
And that's what it seemed like while they were playing. It's like, oh, here's this song again. And that song again. And there it is again.
That stinks. Oh my God.
But it was okay. I mean, I'll be honest. It was still cool. It was still fucking cool. But
yeah.
So do we need to talk about Andy Milligan? I mean, we're doing pretty good without fucking.
We have to tackle Andy Milligan. So
are you sure about that?
Yes. So we're gonna take a little break, and we'll come back and we will talk about The Rats Are Coming, The Werewolves Are. We'll do it by that year. So the first one is the first one. So all right. I'll find a trailer. I probably will because there is a trailer online, I think. If not, I'll just cut a piece out because I know there are plenty of segments of this movie put on YouTube because people like to look at it and go, look how bad this is. I don't know. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
Good. Good. I love the poster for this fucking movie.
That is the best part of this movie.
Yeah.
Is this poster?
Oh no, we'll get into it. Okay, all right. What you heard was something because the problem is that these films are available, but may or may not have trailers. And then people, if you go on YouTube and you look for things, you could actually find this whole film on YouTube in full frame, like it was intended, on a bad like VHS rip, which kind of stinks. Or if you're paying for Amazon right now, it's on Amazon. The Blu-ray release, I guess, Code Red put it out.
Mm-hmm.
So the Code Red release of it is on Amazon right now,
which really actually is a really nice version.
It looks fucking awesome. So from 1972, The Rats Are Coming, The Werewolves Are Here, written, shot, and directed by Andy Milligan. I think he also edited the film.
Somebody actually edited this film.
Well, with whatever bits and pieces he had. The film centers around an eccentric family known as the Moonies in like 1890s England. The reason why they're so eccentric is the father allegedly is 190 years old, 80 years old, and they're all werewolves, except for one of the daughters who has recently come back from was it a fucking she from
England.
Well, no, in that. Well, she went to school for she's now a doctor. So she went to school and she comes home with her new husband. The father isn't particularly fond about this because it's going to hinder their experiments on trying to figure out a cure for their family. You have the crazy father, his kind of his like nurse, his pissy, bitchy, fucking sadistic daughter who's never left the house. Her father, the one daughter who comes back with the new husband. You have a deranged son who's kind of animalistic, who lives in a room with live chickens, which every time he gets popped up, every time they cut to him, somebody off screen is throwing chickens at him.
Yeah, absolutely throwing chickens at him.
Like live chickens are flapping, and he's just supposed to be acting like a monster, and he's getting hit in the face with a live chicken, or getting like candles dripped on him and shit, which is just one. If you ever watch any of his films, the one thing you'll know with Milligan is that he must have had the most traumatic family in the world, because all of his films are about eccentric, degenerate, idiotic, psychotic families. Like a good chunk of his films from the early 60s up until like the early 80s, all those films are kind of just about dysfunctional families, and they always have something wrong with them. This one, it's werewolves,
for 5 minutes.
Well, the thing is, so I like the dime store werewolf effects in this film. I think it's really funny when that whole sequence comes up at the end. So like
the last 5 minutes of the movie. Let's be very clear about this, Vaughn. Let's not act like the movie that's called The Rats Are Coming, The Werewolves Are Here actually has werewolves running through it. Well, it has werewolves in the way that Howling New Moon Rising has werewolves.
Okay. All right. Stop being pushy. Jesus. Don't show your hatred for the film so soon. God. Another thing you'll notice with Milligan's movies is that they're they're all melodramas. He has a weird thing for it, because if you look into his back history, he worked alongside with a lot of underground theater troops and a lot of underground theater in New York in the early 60s. So he kind of just took those kind of teachings and brought them to every movie he made, except for a handful. But all of them are melodramas. There's no like comedies. There's no, slapstick films. They're all horror movies. They're all melodramas. But I like the whole concept of the film. I think there are some really slow moments in the film, but I think because the acting is so over the top that it makes it interesting to watch. I wasn't getting tired at all watching this film. You know what I mean? Like I rewatched it Saturday on Amazon, and I was like, holy shit, this looks great compared to like every other copy I've ever seen of the film. You know what I mean?
It is really nice. I mean, they did a good job cleaning this thing up, because I was only familiar with it for many, many years on really shitty VHSs.
Yes. I have
made it look like dog shit.
I had an old dupe, which any of the dark scenes look like just like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is probably where a lot of my sustained hatred for this movie came from, is because the vast majority of this movie are people in wide master shots,
right
in the middle of the frame, just spouting exposition for 15 minutes at a time. Lit with
I don't know. Well, it would be like a phone camera light, but nowadays it's more like he has one really good white light bulb shoved in a lamp that he stands right behind the camera with.
Yep.
And because the great thing about this film, because it's supposed to be like a 1890s like European kind of like they're all dressed up in like gowns and fancy dress and all that crap. But for some odd reason, because even with the most cleanup, most of the characters look like they're wearing green makeup on their faces. Have you noticed that? Or at least the daughter who comes home with the new husband, she looks like, because no matter how much work they do on this, it'll never get corrected, because he had a tendency to work with like just like the ends of film reels and stuff like that. So the emotions were all fucked up. So these films got processed, and they all got processed incorrectly. So these films look weirdly bright and deranged. Mm-hmm. Especially this film. This film looks like everything pops. Like all the colors on the dresses are all like off by like just a tinge. Like it's supposed to be a blue dress, but it's like this weird greenish blue dress. or like, you know, the reds are black. Like it's just weird as fuck.
Lots of oranges. It just has that really gaudy 70s look to it, you know, because he was obviously he actually designed most of the costumes in his movies, and it color does not suit Andy Milligan as well. And I know you and I on other podcasts have talked about this, and I tend to be of the camp that Andy Milligan's movies work so much better when they're in black and white, and when they're in color, the cheapness of the productions just becomes so apparent, especially in these new Blu-ray editions of these movies. It just, all the seams show very vividly. And this movie in particular, if I could tell a quick little story about it, I first came across this movie way back in the 90s. And I remember I had a friend that was attempting to get me into Andy Milligan at the time. And he's like, oh, this is the one you got to check out. And of course, that title, The Rats Are Coming, The Werewolves Are Here. I'm balls deep. You don't got to tell me, you don't got to force me on it. I'm in. And this movie, for at least a good 20 years, it was impenetrable to me. It, like, the first 15 minutes to 20 minutes of this movie, I fell asleep every single time I tried to watch it. Every single time I tried to watch it. And as I had said before, the vast majority of the movie is shot in wide master shots where people are just talking about things that had happened and not showing them happen.
Yeah.
Well, there's no action in this movie. It's exposition the movie.
Yes.
And so for a long time, I never watched the entire thing because I just couldn't get through it.
So you missed the real last 5 minutes of the film where you have an old woman knitting, laughing about the name Petunia, which
the thrilling knitting sequence.
Oh my God! So, like I said, you find out through a lot of talking that their family of werewolves. The father is allegedly 170 years old. And because I keep goofing it up, I think it gets goofed up 2 or 3 times in the film. The one thing about his films is that he doesn't develop from script. He brings in people who actually can act, yet they're acting like on such a high level, like they're
real
not
camp, super camp.
But I think they know that.
Oh yeah,
I don't think these actors are coming in going, okay, we're just gonna try to do this our best, and Andy's like, all right, let's just do it. No, it's like they know that, okay, this is an Andy like they all seem like they probably know him, and they say, okay, they know what his work is, and it's like, okay, let's just do it to the hilt. Let's blow the jams off this motherfucker and make it as silly as possible. A lot of shots are like that, where it's just, the one thing I like about this film is that the camera actually stays up compared to other couple of films that he's done. Like in I think is it Bloodthirsty Butchers, where the camera just falls over at one point.
Yeah.
But you can definitely tell that he was probably, he was working with no budget, by the seat of his pants, and I kind of like, I have to kind of, I understand you're kind of just, you're not liking of this film because yes, it is goofy because they constantly talking about this werewolf thing, and when it finally happens, it's just the silliest fucking thing because people just pop up. All of a sudden they're normal, and then next second they're fucking werewolves and they're attacking you. And then like the big reveal is that the daughter that went away to go to college, who came back, and they're like, oh, well, why didn't you ever change? You're one of them. She's like, well, I don't change. And like, so what happens is like, so I lock everybody up in their rooms when they're sedated, and in the morning I let them out. And then 2 seconds later, you find out, oh, she can change. She can just do it at will. She doesn't change like everybody else at the full moon. She can just change whenever she feels like it, and kills her new husband who wants to leave. The whole thing is her husband's like, I don't want to stay here. I don't like this place. And like a typical woman, no offense to any women we know, they all say, fuck you, I want to stay here, this is my house. And they're like, no, let's go back to Scotland, we had a better time. And then she goes, oh, by the way, I can transform into a werewolf, and kills him.
Yeah, she used everybody.
Yeah. It's another thing that Milligan has is he doesn't particularly like women. I've noticed that watching a lot of the films in the last couple of weeks. Is that a lot of the films in the 60s and early 70s are these very vengeful women who are trying to get revenge on their shitty families for the smallest of fractions, like the dumbest of fucking things. And the whole reason with her is that like her father was not very happy with her coming home with a husband because, you know, you can't continue the bloodline now because you got a husband. So
well, she was the person that helped him with his experiments,
yes,
to keep him alive, because he was bedridden and he couldn't go out and seek blood.
Yeah.
And he was trying to figure out ways around that with experiments he keeps talking about.
Yeah,
I think my favorite part of this movie had to be when she goes to get a gun from Quasimodo, because every fucking Andy Milligan movie has to have a few things happen in it.
Yeah.
There has to be somebody that gets their hands chopped off.
Right.
There has to be a Quasimodo.
Which was played by Milligan.
That was Milligan in this movie.
Yeah. The gunsmith? Yeah, that's Milligan. Yeah. Not the first Quasimodo, the second one, the one who sells her the gun and takes the, because there's two of them. There's the guy that I forget when he sells the one sister. It's like he looks like he's just sitting in a closet. He doesn't even look like he's like at a shop. She walks into
the rats, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. She sells the sadistic sister the rats, and then when she decides to put them in the brother's room, one of the rats bites her, and then she wants to return them after she's killed the rats.
The obviously rubber rat that's in the mix of all these real rats that are running around.
Yeah, when you see her getting bit by the fake rat, she just throws and it bounces off the floor. But then the second Quasimodo, the guy who's the gunsmith, sells her the gun, and then she comes back and says, "Hey, I need silver bullets." And there's this whole what the fuck's the word? Like this MacGuffin in the film where she can't kill her family with just any silver bullets. It has to be with a piece of silver that someone she knows loved. So for some odd reason, the husband carries around a fucking silver cross that he adores. So she steals it from him to get the bullets made by that Quasimodo, which is played by Andy Milligan. And that the only reason he played that character was because he couldn't afford to pay another actor to play that character. And the director, I think what it was is that the guy who was making the film for felt it was too short. It was missing a couple of minutes, so he added that scene in of the Quasimodo, of the gunsmith and whatnot to kind of extend it, because I guess it was like I think 80 something minutes, and he needed to get to 90 minutes. And the director, so he kind of just added this piece in, and he couldn't afford another actor, so he put himself in there.
There was a whole section of this film that felt that way, where it just all of a sudden went outside of the castle or the estate which they were, and then there was random scenes of her hanging out on steps with some crazy lady.
Yeah, with
talking about nothing.
The sister who buys the rats feels like it's something like, well, we have to make the sister even shittier, so we'll have her buy rats from a fucking like a guy in a bad wig, okay, it's like all right, and then we'll cut another scene where she's going to try to torture the brother with rats. It's like, okay. But the weirdest part is that the film starts with the deranged brother somehow getting out of the house and getting attacked by other people who are trying to stop him from leaving the house, which you never see those two other people again.
Nope.
And then every time we see the brother, who is this kind of another thing we'll get with this with the weirdo, is that he has a weird affliction for people who have disorders. You know what I mean? That's another thing I've noticed in his films, is that not like just sexual disorders, because he does have that too, but like mental or emotional disorders.
Yeah, neurosis.
Yeah. And in this film, this character, it's not a big character. He's only shown in like 3 or 4 scenes, but every time we see him, he's on the floor like doing the curly shuffle, growling like a maniac, getting chickens thrown at him. And it's like, and you clearly, like, you can't see, like, it's not like some like Italian films you can clearly see a guy in the background throwing a cat at somebody. In this film, you can clearly, the chicken just flies in the air and hits him right in the chest and keeps going. And it's like, oh, this is the bizarrest fucking thing ever. It's like, oh, no wonder there's kids locked in here. I would be locked in here too if I was getting chickens thrown at me all the time. It'd be fucking nuts. But
that scene really reminded me of Pink Flamingos.
Oh yeah, you definitely you can definitely tell that, like, because you can definitely tell John Waters must have seen some of his films at some point, at some time, because at a drive-in or something like that. because there's definitely some little hints of those kind of films being done in the late 60s, those early films.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of weird shit in those early films where it's just like, oh, you can definitely see the influence. Like John Waters just didn't pull this shit out of his ass. I mean, he did, hang out with a weird crowd, but like you can definitely tell that like some of the weird shit that Andy was putting on films in the 60s and the early 60s was definitely getting shown to Wood and to him and his crowd, and like, oh, look at this crap.
I'm sure he saw it on at like the grindhouses and stuff, because I mean, he was part of the New York scene, and he had been, Baltimore's not too far away, and I'm sure they were running a lot of the both outwardly gay film directors, working on the fringes.
Yep.
Working, I don't know if necessarily with any of the same people or any of the same crews, but I mean, there's a definite connection between
the two. It definitely feels like he must have seen those early 60s films. Yeah. So how we do this in this show is pretty much, did you like the movie? Would you recommend it?
Nah, this movie's a total piece of fucking shit. I've hated it my entire life, and I've watched it now twice this month. Once because our friend Evan talked shit to me on Twitter to get me to start watching Andy Milligan movies, telling me there are actually good Andy Milligan movies, and my frame of reference was always The Rats Are Coming, The Werewolves Are Here, which has been my entire life my least favorite movie of all time.
Right.
And it continues to be just about my least favorite movie of all time. Mostly because I love the concept. I love the idea. The execution is so fucking boring.
Yeah.
This movie is like watching paint fucking dry.
I won't disagree with you. There are some scenes in the film where it's just like, but the thing is, I'd recommend it just clearly on like, if you're paying for Prime, you don't want to, like I said, this is on YouTube. So if you don't want to waste, give anybody $1 on any kind of streaming subscription, it's on YouTube in its entirety, and an actual good copy. Either the person put it up there and then just like raised put a filter on it to make it brighter in certain scenes, but it's actually not too bad. And I'd go check it out that way if you don't want to either pay for the Blu-ray, which I think is insanely expensive, or give a penny to anybody, because it's in the Prime subscription, unlike a lot of independent horror films. But we won't talk about that.
Yeah, that's never
but I like the dime store-ness of it. I think the goofiness of it is fun. I think it's just because I'm adhered. I bow at the lap of like really screwball directors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, it's trashy as hell. On that kind of just like, there are scenes in it that are kind of dull as shit. But if you really sit there and pay attention to the, what they're talking about, it's like, what fucking lunatic wrote this fucking script?
Yeah, but you got to sit there and look at the most boring shit while they're saying this stuff. Yeah, that's my main. I love Gonzo cinema as much as you do, and there is a charm to Andy Milligan that becomes apparent after you watch a few of his movies. I would not recommend this being the first Andy Milligan movie you watch.
No, definitely not.
You will not get the appreciation for this movie if it's the first one that you watch. You'll be like, fuck, I'm running the fuck away from this.
But if you watched Nightbirds, like I suggested when I talked about it a couple months back, and you're looking for other things for his, like I said, it's on YouTube, so you can watch it without any problems. And if you saw Nightbirds and you said, hey, well, this is actually not that bad, and then you go in and watch this and go, what the fuck? The base point there. That's the even keel. It's much more what the fuck than it is, okay, interesting film. There's like 5 or 6 of his films that are really good out of like the 30 he made, which we'll get to that. But yeah, so I didn't mind it. So why don't we take a little break? I'll try to find something for this film. Either that or I'll play music. I don't know. I'm probably going to be playing music for these things because I don't think there's a trailer for this either. And we'll tackle the weirdo. Man, I'm dry as hell now.
Yeah, it sounds like you need to take a drink, man.
Yeah. I think I can get it through it. I just got to... Okay.
Yeah, I can't podcast anymore without like a glass of water or something by me.
Oh, usually I do, but I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to go back downstairs. I was kind of sitting
Power
upstairs.
through.
I was sitting upstairs with the wife, and I was like, "All right, I gotta go do this. Let's get this done." And she's like, "All
Let's
right."
do this.
Well, she's like, "Oh, she's like 6, so she's kind of miserable right now."
Oh, that sucks.
I know. Oh, it sucks for me because when she's sick, it's a miserable day. Ugh. So were you able to find a copy of Sugar Kill?
Of which one?
Or whatever? The
Oh
last
yeah,
one?
Search a Kill.
Yeah.
I actually started watching it last night, and I thought it was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those films where it's like, what were you like? Really? Like this is the descent, and it is the like we have no money, if I remember correctly. Where it's like, all right,
I couldn't get over. I was not ready for it to be kind of a comedy and a satire.
no, yeah, I know, not at all. It's a bizarre. It's like okay, well, I'm gonna take a huge fucking left. And it's like it's supposed to be a horror movie, but yeah, it's completely the exact opposite of what I've been doing for the last 40 years.
No, it's absolutely like one of those John Waters horror movies where it's knowingly funny. It's knowingly being stupid.
Yeah. It's it's like he finally got the hint and then he died the next year or that year when that movie came out, which is like, oh fuck. Okay, so 1989, right?
For the weirdo.
Yeah, 89.
Yes.
So all right, we're back. Hi. 1989's The Weirdo, or Weirdo the Beginning, written and directed by Andy Milligan. He actually gave someone else the credit of shooting this fucking thing.
Not that it helped at all.
Now, I'm on the I by this time finally seeing this the first time I saw this, I was so kind of burnt out because I'd watched them over the course of like 2 or 3 days, all of his films. Which was a bad idea.
For that one podcast you were talking about?
Because he kind of threw it at me like really quick. And he's like, okay, there's like 20 movies. You want to do it all in one shot? I was like, yeah. We did like a 7-hour show. It's ridiculous. But it never got published because Audacity ate the fucking thing.
Yeah, I want to hear I want to see the documentary about that podcast that nobody will ever see, but you guys put in 7 hours of your life into.
Yeah. So by the time I got to The Weirdo, I was like, oh my God, please. And now rewatching it for this, and then rewatching it last night with you and Paula, I was really like, well, last night with you and Paula was actually pretty funny because I was like, I actually sat down and watched it with someone else.
Instead of having to endure it by yourself.
Yeah. So this film, pretty stupidly, is about a kid named Donnie who, for some strange reason, roams around the woods around his house collecting stuff. He gets accosted by a bunch of guys who are maybe older than him, which I really thought the first time I saw this, I thought they were going to rape him, like straight up. Like I thought.
Well, the way they play it out, it definitely feels like a Deliverance kind of thing,
right? It feels like they're going to just like rip the kid's clothes off and rape him right there in a dirty friggin' pile of leaves. It was like, oh, great.
Well, they're all sweaty and they're wearing like muscle shirts and they look like total D-bags from the 80s, with the mullets and their yoke, their muscles are just bulging out and they're just totally aggro. And you think, there's that scene where the main guy who has the Confederate flag on the back of his jacket is basically has his hair in the back of his hand and holding his head by his crotch and slapping him in the face while he's asking him questions. And you're just wondering, okay, when's he going to take his dick out?
Yeah. It's like, but they just beat him up and slap him around and tell him he's a stupid asshole. And then they leave him. And then he goes home. I don't remember if she was his grandmother or just like a caretaker. Even though I watched the movie last night with you guys, I still can't comprehend what she was. So
she's set up in the beginning to be like a family friend that he went to go stay with.
Yeah, so he stays with this old woman who kind of babies him and kind of takes him. What you realize early on is that there's something wrong with Donnie. He's either slow or just like mentally handicapped in a certain way, or he just came from like a family of abuse and he's living with this woman. He just hasn't been able to kind of incorporate himself into the real world yet. So he kind of lives in this house and kind of just gets taken care of and kind of does things around the house for her. But he's clearly like a kid in his 20s. who probably should be in school somewhere,
Yeah.
or at least trying to get a job. So we follow Donnie around. He meets a young woman who's kind of in the same boat as him, but she seems a little more slower than him, but smarter, I guess you can say. She's written actually like a smarter person than he is, but it's just like it's kind of hard to kind of. The thing is, I didn't like this movie. I didn't like it the first time I watched it. I still don't like it, because I just feel that it's like he throws out all his kind of ideas, like the whole kind of dysfunctional family thing is thrown out. We're just dealing with this one dysfunctional kid and his like really boring existence. Like you were kind of rallying on with rats is that the film is boring. This film just feels when you watch it by yourself, it's such a like a long slog for 90 minutes.
But at least in this movie,
yeah,
there are different locations than one room. The vast majority of the rats are coming, the werewolves are here, takes place in 3 rooms.
Yeah, and this takes place on a on a path, in what is supposed to be a church, which clearly looks like it was probably the church basement. A shack of some sorts. And like what the thing is, so the film kind of goes on. He gets pushed around and beat up. He meets this girl that he kind of has a thing for. He continues to get pushed around and beat up. Now, is that his mother that he meets when he finally loses it? Is that the woman?
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So he sees his mother, and his mother doesn't want to particularly have anything to do with him. Tries to get him beat up. Like it's really bizarre. And then all of a sudden he after he gets kind of rejected by his mother, he kind of freaks out and starts killing everybody around him, which I wasn't expecting when it happens. But also the problem is that it's not a full on slaughter fest. It takes it's the last 20 minutes of the movie where he kills 2 people. He kills the mother with he kills the one guy with a rake, like one of those pitchfork rakes right in the neck. Kills his mother, goes back to the church, kills a woman with a cross, kills his caretaker. And there's kind of goofiness in between that. Like he loses his virginity to the other girl. It's like, I don't know. And the thing is, Garage House Pictures just put this on Blu-ray, so I've seen screen grabs of it. It looks fucking great.
I'd love to see it because I know the copy we watched last night looked like dog shit.
Yeah, it's like a 7th generation VHS tape. And I've seen screen grabs of it, and it looks like an actually good film. And that would probably change my opinions on it. Because,
would it though?
I don't know if I can actually see certain things. Like say if I can see that when he kills the guy with the rake, if I could actually see that instead of it being so fucking dark that you barely even see him attack somebody. You're like, what is he hitting? Like the fuck is he hitting the wall, the house with the fucking rake? What the fuck's going on? But I don't know. It's the one film I don't like out of all of his films.
This is the movie.
Yeah, this is it. I don't know why.
That is strange. I think
it's better than a lot of the films he did in the 60s, like late 60s, early 70s.
Sure.
Because if you really dig in his films, there are 2 films that he made. I think it's The Body Beneath and Baby Bloodthirsty Butchers, where it's the same fucking screenplay, and he just changed the time period.
The ghastly ones.
Oh, the ghastly ones.
There's 2 of the ghastly ones. The Body Beneath is the vampire movie, and what was the other one you just said? Bloodthirsty Butchers is his Sweeney Todd.
Yeah. So yeah, the ghastly ones is a film where he did it twice, but he changes the title on the second one, but it's a different time period. It's the same fucking film, and I still like those films more than this one. I don't know why, but it's just I don't know.
I'm really surprised by this because while I feel like I'm trying to defend this movie, I also didn't like this movie. For reasons I think we agree on a lot of it. I think the story, it could have been pared down to probably like a hard 45 minutes, 45 to 60 minutes.
I say 60 because there are certain things where there are just dialogues moments in the film where where our character Donnie and the girl he's trying to get with, have these just inane conversations
that go on forever
and they go nowhere. You know what I mean? And they just go nowhere, and they almost go in circles. They
repeat themselves a lot.
and just like, and it's
At
like,
least this movie, okay, if I'm going to
what?
defend this movie, this is my stance.
Oh, please.
There are boobs in this movie.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, but I don't think that's enough to. It's another.
It's something, Vaughn. There's
Yeah.
something happens. There's voyeurism in this movie because
Right.
Donnie's kind of a creep who's checking out this girl that lives with them. They're, I mean, this biker gang that are douchebags. They kind of bring in an ironic comic element into this movie.
Yeah, when they keep popping up, they keep popping up and like accosting Donnie like every chance they get. When you call them a biker game, do they even come up in bikes? I think they walk.
I don't think they ever do, but I think they're just dudes that just wander around town looking to bully people.
Yeah. And it's like, it's fun at the end when you see all these people die. Like, you understand why he kills the woman who takes care of him, because she kind of, for some reason, she takes a character change at the end of the film.
Yeah, she does a heel turn big time.
Yeah, she berates him for being like that. She wasted her life taking care of him, and it's like, holy shit, what the fuck where did that come from? And all of a sudden, she like just kind of tells him off and freaks out, and he freaks out and kills her. And it's like, why are like. And like
I think she was embarrassed because a lot of people in town made fun of her for taking care of him and defending him for so long, where they must live in the most un-PC bullshit asshole town on earth that sits in dogs, mentally handicapped and slow people all the time.
Yeah. So I was like, the whole angle of it kind of just really rubbed me the wrong way, where it's like, you have this kid and there's something wrong with him, and it just, his whole life turns around and everybody's just a dickhead to him. And it's like, what the fuck? So like, and like I read some reviews where they're like, well, I don't understand why he went nuts and killed this person or killed that person. They didn't do anything to him. It's like, well, they all kind of changed on a dime, like the last 2 minutes of the film. So it's like, why wouldn't he kill them?
The first hour of the movie is this real boring slog where you're introduced basically to all these characters.
Yeah.
And then in the last 20 minutes, everyone just gets completely offed.
Well, everyone changes. It's like the full moon almost. And it's like they all transform to dickheads. And you understand why Donnie's going to kill them all. Like, I understand him killing his mother. His mother didn't seem like all that much of a nice person. I understand like why she didn't want to have a child. That was fucked up like he was. And she blatantly tells him, it's like, okay, I can understand why she'd kill him. I can understand him killing the gang of dickhead guys who constantly accost him. That makes total sense. The caretaker, she flips, like all of a sudden, just out of nowhere. She becomes this real spiteful asshole. And you're like, oh, why do you leave her alive? And then like the woman in the church, like she's just annoying. So he just stabs her with a fucking cross. It's just bizarre because it's like he kept making movies, and it's like he never got like any kind of notoriety. And it's kind of sad that a guy who worked for like almost 20 something years in the business, even if it was underground, he's still like, and I've kind of coined this, I told you this when we talked the last time, was that this is like the year of Milligan, because there's so many companies putting out his movies and giving him this kind of weird treatment for the films he's done finally. But it's like he never got any kind of like, no one's ever kind of said like, they did with Ed Wood, like the worst director of all time. Which you look at Wood's films, and Wood, even though he was a deranged alcoholic lunatic, his films are entertaining as fuck.
Oh yeah. Well, I think a lot of the difference is Andy Milligan's movies are very fringe type movies.
Yeah.
They don't really have commercial appeal to them whatsoever.
Yeah, they're made for like the art house, but the art house didn't particularly didn't want them.
Yeah, they're like art house horror, but not done very artfully.
Yeah.
If you can even imagine what a film like that would be.
Right.
They're very impromptu. A lot of them were ad-libbed. With especially The Rats Are Coming, The Werewolves Are Here. There's so much of that movie that's obviously ad-libbed.
Yeah,
this movie not so much. This movie really felt like a scripted movie.
With Rats, it feels like they made everything up day by day. To be honest, like the screenplay was probably written, like the pages were written that day.
Yeah,
run with this, go, like just, let's shoot it, and he just kind of cut it together to make it work
Yeah, make a movie where the
maybe he just,
weirdo
yeah.
is definitely, it feels like to me, and I know last night when we were watching it,
Uh-huh.
I had said it feels like an after school
Yeah,
special
like
movie that's kind of ramped up to 11.
like on, yeah, it's like on drugs. Like it's yeah, it's like an after school special that's on drugs, because none of that murder at the end of the film wouldn't happen.
No.
You know,
Or what about the weird scene where Donnie sees the one biker girl get fucked in in some shed,
yeah.
and she invites him over to feel her tits.
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck? Yeah, that wouldn't definitely pass on ABC in the middle of the afternoon on a Tuesday. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, it's definitely like one of those coming of age films where it's like the guy who wrote it really never had a coming of age. You know what I mean? Like he was,
Or imagine this is what Americana is, what growing up in America really is.
yeah, like definitely. Like if you live in the Midwest, you know what this guy's going through, type of thing.
So I have to ask you.
Uh,
So we have this alternate title, The Weirdo, The Beginning. What do you imagine this is the beginning of?
oh, a slow, nightmarish descent into Donnie's like inner psyche. I don't know. I don't like
Is
the
he
thing
a
is, like,
new Jason Voorhees? Is that what they're
oh,
trying to set up?
oh my god, that would be hysterical, wouldn't it? Like you have this timid 20-something retarded guy running around making friends and then killing them off because
Because nobody will fuck him.
they didn't say thank you to him or something.
There's that whole awkward scene where he feels up this one girl, that the biker girl in the shed, and then he goes to his quote unquote girlfriend.
Yeah.
And she kind of wants him, and he doesn't know how to act because he's slow, and he obviously
Right.
he's either on the spectrum or something where he doesn't take social cues correctly. And so he figures, okay, well, she wants to have sex, and she keeps pushing him off.
Yeah, she
Left and
doesn't
right.
she knows she wants to do something, but she's not sure how to do it. And it's just so awkward. It's such an awkward fucking scene because you can clearly see that they're being told, okay, embrace, embrace, embrace. And then she's being told off screen to be like, okay, push him away. Okay, then get back to embracing, but push him away. And it's so like, it's such a cock block scene. It's such a weird fucking scene.
So I imagine that's what it's going to be. He's going to go town to town. His whole mission is to see if he can actually get laid at some point, and everybody turns him down, and he kills everybody in the town. He has to move, kind of like Kung Fu, where he's got to go from town to town to town to try and get laid. But he kills everybody off.
Yeah, he doesn't help anybody. He just kills them off. Yeah.
The series will never have it, Vaughn. It'll never happen.
No, it's weird. We don't have anybody like some kind of weird independent director who wants to either remake this or make a sequel to it. You know.
Well, what a shame.
Thank God. Thank God.
So, what would you ultimately say? This is your least favorite, you would say?
I think for me, I would probably pick up that Blu-ray that came out just to see what it looked like and see what the special features were.
Would you spend $40 on it?
No, I'd wait until like I do with most things. I wait until somebody gets desperate and sells a whole shitload of Blu-rays on sale for nothing, and then buy it up. Then I would not buy or like maybe go to, if I'm at a convention, it's for like $20. I might pick it up. But I wouldn't tell you to watch. If you've been watching Milligan's work, yes, go to the end stuff. Like watch Monstrosity, watch this film, watch Sugar Kill. But if you haven't and you just kind of like, oh, I like listening to people talk about this stuff, don't waste your time.
Oh man, yeah, while I think this is a much better film than The Rats Are Coming, The Werewolves Are Here, this is still a real stinker. There are moments in it that are entertaining. I think ironically they're kind of fun, but for the most part, this is a real snoozer. This one's real, well, especially the version we watched that looked like it was filmed on a potato. It just looked terrible. It was a horrible looking movie. Even if it was on Blu-ray and it cleaned up, it's a very brown and green movie.
Yeah.
Nothing looks very particularly striking in it. And none of the actors are very good in this movie. No. They all feel like TV actors. It's all shot and staged like a TV movie. It just, the best part of this movie, beyond, as I said before, there's a little titty action in it, is the cheesy 80s soundtrack.
Yeah.
And that's not even really a pull. So I wouldn't recommend this. I wouldn't recommend either. It's funny. You wanted to do this Milligan show, Vaughn,
Yeah.
and you bring me on to watch 2 of the worst Milligan movies that are out there. What is that? What are you trying to say to me here?
I like torturing people. I don't know if you've really know me all that well. I seriously like torturing people. I do this to like the other podcast I'm on, Podcast Mania. I have a tendency to kind of pull films out of my ass, and I'm like I made them do all the violent shit films at one point.
Yeah, we did that on Astro Radio Z a while back. Boy, that was fun.
I love all those films. I know you guys are very indifferent, but I like them. And I kind of made them kind of bend. They didn't particularly like the second one, but they liked the third one a lot. So
yeah, the third one's fun.
Third one's fun. Fourth one, have you ever seen 4.0?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. It's great.
Oh man,
cardboard swords. It's awesome.
Oh man, that movie. The scenes where the 2 big monsters are out and there's a war going on and all that bullshit.
Yeah, when they both transform into big bulky friggin'
like guar monsters.
Yeah, it's fucking great. Like, it's like, where the fuck did that come from? Yeah.
If the whole movie was that, I would fucking love it.
It would have been awesome. Like, and I love how it started with the fucking Carl sitting in hell in that dark room with the girl comes up to him and kind of he said, there's a demon's voice off screen that tells him to come, I need you. And he gets to kill the girl right there in front of him. It's
so ridiculous.
And that's like, I'm like, oh my God, this could be the best thing ever. And then it's like, oh my God, they only had like enough money to like film in a junkyard. Fuck.
Somebody put up a tent and they put a light in it and they're all sitting around.
Yeah. And like we have the woods outside the junkyard, and we have the junkyard and that tent where all the girls are hanging out. We can shoot in there. All right, let's just figure something out.
Oh, so wonderful. Well, I appreciate you bringing me on the show of the worst of Milligan. This was quite a treat, Vaughn.
Well, you should come back, hopefully, and we'll, next time you get to pick what we talk about.
Ooh, so I get to show you the worst of somebody.
Yeah, so you can torture me with whatever the hell you want.
Oh, good, good.
So hopefully,
start thinking about that.
Sometime by the end of the year, the way this show is going, hopefully I'll get more than 5 episodes out this year.
You've been on a hot streak. You've been putting out a bunch of episodes, though.
I know it's gonna crash. I know something's gonna happen where I'm just gonna give up life and not record for like a month. Like I still have a douche cast I have to edit down. I'm still looking at it. I like put it on the Audacity yesterday, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't want to do this." And I saved it and I closed the file. I was like, "Fuck it, I don't want to do
Was it like 4 hours long?
No, it's like an hour and a half. But there's like because the guys I record with, they don't like the way I record. Which if folks, if you listen to the shows I do, I don't edit. I never edit. I mean, this might get edited down a little bit. But I don't edit, and they have a tendency to talk about personal stuff. And like the second episode we came back with, I usually cut like the first 5 minutes before I actually start the episode. I'll just cut into the beginning and just go. And they were talking about personal stuff, and one of the guys got so pissed off at me he didn't talk to me for like a week. And I don't know these guys. I only know them through the internet. So like when you don't talk to me for a week, it's like okay, whatever.
My life goes on.
Yeah, whatever. You're gonna text me. You're gonna text me in a couple of days, going, okay, so when are we doing a show? So it's like, all right, whatever. I'll wait. I can wait until you cool down for a couple of days.
Right.
I mean, I wish I had that with like everybody I knew, where it's like, oh, I can piss you off, and you're not gonna talk to me for a week, and then we'll be friends like after you cool off. All right, fine. I wish I could do that. I would have.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if life was actually like that?
I would have more friends if I could do that. Because, oh my God, I piss off so many people. Like my wife's probably mad at me right now for something. I don't know. Because I told her this is going to be recorded in an hour, and it's like almost 11.
Oh Christ!
So, whatever. Anyway, we're done. I hope you like this. If you need to get in touch with Derek, if you want to tell them exactly what you do online.
Yeah, if you dug this at all, you can go. I have actually now, this is fucking so stupid. I'm about to say this. I have 3 podcasts that I'm doing. I have one called All the Gimmicks that Vaughn had talked about before. You can find that at iTunes, Stitcher, all my podcasts are on just about every one of the podcatchers. So you can just type in All the Gimmicks, and that's a podcast where me and my buddy Seth from Baltimore sit and just shoot the shit and cut promos on everything. I have another podcast called The Podcast at Orgy Castle, where my friend Paula and I sit and watch trashy, smutty movies from the 70s, 80s, and beyond. That's a weekly show, about a half-hour long show. You can find both of these shows. Also, we have a Facebook group called All the Gimmicks. You can join us there and just be stupid in our group and talk about the podcast and talk about whatever you want. And I have this other podcast that I've been doing for 8 or 9 years now, and we're bringing it back. Vaughn's on the first new episode of it, where we actually talk about good Andy Milligan movies.
Yay.
This is a podcast which hopefully is going to be dropping tomorrow. I just got the final piece of it tonight, and that podcast is called Astro Radio Z. That it's a podcast about cult exploitation in horror films. I ended it last year. And then all this Andy Milligan shit came back, and I started watching. I'm like, man, let's make this worthwhile. And why don't I just revive Astro Radio Z to talk about Andy Milligan? So I have 3 podcasts.
Instead of trying to get a new feed started and putting it on iTunes and fucking waiting for that shit to go through.
Yeah. Why don't I just revive after I close the door in Astro Radio Z? Let's just bring it back. And so that'll be dropping a new episode of Astro Radio Z. I think it's like 127 or something like that. Right. You can find that everywhere. It's on YouTube. We have a YouTube page. We have all that stuff. So if you want to get a hold of me personally, find me on Facebook or Astro Radio Z podcast at gmail.com.
See, look at that. See, I bring on people who know things. See, it's not just me talking. Been doing this
too much talking lately, Vaughn. Too much talking.
I've been doing this for over 13 years on my own, so it's a long time. If you need to get in touch with me, well, if you want to find the podcast, you can go on where is it? motionpicturemaster.wordpress.com. There, the FeedBurner account link is on that page. If you want to just add it to any FeedBurner, kind of podcast catcher, you can. I'm not affiliated with anything else but iTunes because I am too lazy and I don't like Stitcher. I just don't. So if you want to find it, you can go through iTunes. It's on there. If you would like to give me a 1-star review, I would love that. 1-star reviews mean nothing. No reviews mean nothing. No offense, you guys. But 5-star reviews mean as less than 1-star reviews. Who gives a shit? Anyway, if you want to talk to me, motionpicturemassacre@gmail.com. I have a Facebook page under the same name. Email account is motionpicturemassacre@gmail.com. That is motionpicturemassacre@gmail.com. I know it's a long one, but what can you do? And hopefully you enjoyed this. Thank you, Derek, for letting me bother you for 2 hours.
Of course. Thanks for having me on, and you better prepare. I'm going to find the shittiest fucking stuff to toss at you.
Dude, whatever. Like I said, I was listening to that the podcast RG Castle episode, and you guys were saying you wanted suggestions for pornos, and I'm going to put up a trailer up for a movie on the All of the Gimmicks podcast page tomorrow. I'm just trying to find the right version of the trailer to post.
Oh, I can't wait to see this. Don't tell me what it is. I just want to see this trailer
because I think you guys should watch it. I did it on the show a long time ago. It's the only porno I've actually covered on this show. So.
Oh shit! Maybe I'll make you watch some Beelzebub.
Oh, I don't care. I'll watch his stuff.
Have you ever watched any of his bullshit?
No, but I've met the man twice.
Oh yeah, so have I. Well, he's a New Jersey dude, right?
Yeah, he goes to conventions around here. I talk to him. I look at his stuff and I go, no, I walk past him.
I have too many Beelzebub stories.
When we're crammed in aisles and you're slowly walking past, and I look up and I go, "Fuck Bill," and I'm like, "Look at this stuff." Like,
oh no! Don't make eye contact.
Eye
contact.
Yeah, my brother's like, "Who's that guy?" He's like, "Don't look at him. Don't look at him. Don't look at him. Don't look at him."
Oh, too late.
Just keep scurrying past. What is this crap? And to keep scurrying crap, I'll tell you as soon as we get past him. I'll tell you who he is as soon as we get past him. Keep going.
Yep.
So. I don't care. I'll watch them like Jesus Christ the Rapist or is it Rap Sucks or whatever the fuck that garbage is.
So many fucking shitty gimmicks he's made.
Yeah. You can buy them all for $12 a piece.
No, just go up to his table and talk to him for 5 minutes. Maybe give him a beer, a Budweiser, preferably, and he'll give you 20 of them for free.
Tell him you have a podcast and you'll talk about his movies and he'll give them to you.
Yep.
Wait, what? You got a what? Okay, here's a box. Oh, fuck.
Oh, here's a movie where I'm in blackface talking about how much I hate women.
With a woman who's topless in front of me.
Yeah, while I wear a Gorguts shirt.
Yeah. Where I talk about the simplistics of black metal for 2 hours.
Oh, God. That's Dick Shark.
Yes, I've been told. Yeah.
So, anyways.
All right. There you go. That's all you need to hear. Goodbye, people.
Bye.
All right, let's see. Stop broad.